Welcome those watching the video. It's your host Jay Snipes, aka the podcaster of the people. And so if you're watching, via YouTube or Spotify, you're seeing some scenes from a health and wellness forum that took place not too long ago. So we're gonna dig a little bit deeper, kind of give some insight as to what took place with the health and wellness forum, as well as you'll be able to, see my next guest as well, Dr. Eboni Haynes. So, kick back, relax, and as always, thank you so much for your support. Hey, let's continue to, affect positive change.
You often feel that you didn't have enough to eat or drink, and basically this is like neglect. Do you feel like when you were a child, your immediate family?
Hey, welcome to another episode of Generation Motivation, the podcast. I am your host, Jay Snipes, aka the podcaster of the people. Hey, first and foremost, thank you, as always, for tuning in. Hey, just continue to like, share, continue to support. It's because of you that I am here. This platform is used to highlight those in the community using their platforms to affect positive change. And with that being said, I would like to introduce my latest guest, not victim, my latest guest, Dr. Eboni Haynes, very dynamic and talented woman. We're going to delve a little bit into her background, but first and foremost, I want to welcome you to the podcast, Generation Motivation, the podcast, and let's kind of start now. I say doctor, not necessarily. I say doctor in terms of being a professor, PhD. So. Let's tell a little bit about your background and your studies, and then just kind of fast forward a little bit.
All right. So thanks for having me on. Yeah. This is amazing. Love the work that you are doing. So again, I'm Dr. Eboni Haynes. I am a research assistant professor at Virginia Union University in Richmond, Virginia, as well as an adjunct professor over at the University of South Carolina. I got my undergraduate degree in biology from Virginia Union years ago. I won't tell my age.
Right.
And I got my PhD in 2019 from the University of South Carolina.
Okay.
And my work really has centered around health policy, but I've also been very much still connected to my community. So making sure that the work I'm doing really is impactful for the community that I come from. I grew up between Virginia and North Carolina.
What part of North Carolina?
Actually, Northampton County, North Carolina, Seaboard, North Carolina in particular.
Seaboard.
So a little rural area, north central North Carolina, right off of Interstate 95.
Okay.
And my mother's side of the family lived right across the border in Emporia, Virginia.
Okay.
So I spent a lot of time in Emporia, Virginia growing up, went to church. Pretty much all my younger days.
Still in the church too.
Absolutely,
Still in the church.
absolutely.
Going strong.
And so I'm still very much connected to making sure that the work that I do is impactful to rural communities. And so while I was at the University of South Carolina, I did a lot of work related to rural health.
Okay.
And then as I transitioned out of college and moved into a number of different urban environments, then I wanted to make sure that work was really resonating with urban environments as well.
Okay, all right. So, and the reason I asked about North Carolina was because I am from North Carolina. I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Okay.
So that's why I was trying to get an idea as to where. Mm-hmm. So, okay, you said Seaboard.
Mm-hmm.
Not familiar with it. Not familiar.
It's a little small town.
A little small town. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then my wife is she's actually from Yanceyville, North Carolina. Have you ever heard?
I've heard of it. Never been there.
That's a small town. And then when you're talking about the border with Virginia, it's close to like Danville, Virginia.
Mm-hmm. But more central.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So now that we all past the pleasantries, let's kind of dig into it though. Let's dig into it. So the reason I was intrigued with having you on the podcast was, that whole health sector, education and health. Both are definitely topics that don't necessarily get, I guess highlighted the way they should, especially in our communities. Or I'm not gonna say highlighted the way they should, but definitely we can always use a lot more focus on health and education, and the fact that you are you're well versed in both is awesome. Okay, so we were talking about how we came together in terms of this particular event, which is actually a health and wellness. I'm gonna say health and wellness forum for the community. So share a little bit about, I guess, your decision to put this event on and what you hope to accomplish from it.
Okay, so I am an advocate for us talking about health from a holistic perspective. Okay. So a lot of times when we think about health, we think about only, our physical health in terms of nutrition and physical activity. But being healthy is really more than just, making sure that we're eating right and making sure that we are getting enough physical activity every week. Right. And a lot of times people don't think about all of those other things that go into making us healthy. So thinking about the fact that financial health impacts our physical health, right? Our mental health impacts our physical health. If we're not healthy emotionally, if we're not surrounded by a community that loves us and is helping us thrive, then that impacts our physical health. And so often we don't think about all of those other influences on our health and well-being. And so for us, this opportunity to have this health and wellness day at St. James is an opportunity for us to, make sure that people are connecting the dots, that there are all of these other influences on our health that we need to talk about. And so because I'm the ministry chair, the health and wellness ministry chair here at our church, this creates the forum for me to do what I love to do, which is to get information out there to communities that need it. So I was thrilled when I was approached to lead the health and wellness ministry at my church, and going into next year, I'll be the ministry chair again. Yes. So that allows us to really take our programming to the next level. This year was an opportunity for us to build, figure out what our priorities should be, think about what activities we really wanted to make sure that we were making available to our members. And then now we've started that, but next year we really get to put a lot, absolutely, do a lot more. And so we're really excited about that. Some of the priorities that we have do center around nutrition and physical activity, right? You can't do this work in public health without the focus on physical activity and nutrition, primarily because, especially in the Black community, most of the health challenges that we have in our community are connected to diet and lack of physical activity. So that has to always be a priority in our communities. So we'll do that. But also we need to do a better job, not just in our church, but all churches. Based on some work that I did 10 years ago when I worked in the hospital system and worked with faith communities, all kinds of faith communities in the county where I was working, what we learned from surveying them was that oftentimes ministers, pastors, church members, they know that they have health challenges within their congregations, but they don't necessarily know exactly what people are dealing with.
And how to be able to find out that information.
Exactly. They don't know where to go for the resources.
Without prying.
Exactly. Exactly. And so one of the things that we are going to do here is we're going to do a congregational health needs assessment where we figure out what people are dealing with from a health perspective, but holistically. So financial health and, sexual health and mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, all of those things. In addition to the financial health, so that we can use the data to inform the types of programming that we'll offer to our members. We want to make sure that our members are patched into programming that is meaningful, that's going to resonate with them, that's going to help change their lives in so many ways. And so that's something else that we're doing. St. James has recently become a dementia-friendly congregation, so we're excited to be able to make sure that families who are providing care to someone with dementia has this worship service, this experience that they can actually come to and not have to fear having to leave church early because their loved one has gotten agitated. And so we're really excited about that because it actually is a springboard to ensure that we're providing other types of services for people who are dealing with other types of challenges. So people with intellectual disabilities, etc. So we're really excited about just the things that we've just started doing, but then we see the trajectory and it's amazing, and we want to be able to be a model to other churches as well.
And that's beautiful, just like you said, just that that well-rounded care, spiritually, physically, financially, emotionally, and just to help make people whole.
Right. Absolutely.
It's interesting that you said that, though, in regards to like how your financial health affects your physical health. Your mental health affects your physical health. A lot of times, people don't even necessarily know the stresses that they're going through at that particular time. This is everyday life. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I have to be able to provide for my family. So if I have to sacrifice, getting sleep, maybe I can run on 6 hours of sleep. You know what I'm saying? Because the kids have to go from point A to point B.
Right.
I gotta get a second job.
That's right.
To be, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of times we think that's the norm, where it's not necessarily the norm.
Absolutely.
Or if that is your norm, you still have to be able to find ways to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Because if you're not being the best version of yourself, then
how can you show up for anybody else?
Exactly. Especially your family. Hey, you know what I'm saying? You think you're doing everything that you can to help provide for them, but if you're not taking care of yourself, then once again, it's a trickle-down effect throughout the family.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
And then we pass on these behaviors, to our children. And so they grow up thinking, I'm only supposed to get 4 hours of sleep.
Right.
And I'm supposed to take on all these responsibilities, and I'm supposed to not go to the doctor. Right. Because they don't see us modeling that. And so we have to do a better job of modeling for the next generation, because we want them to thrive. We want them to live even healthier lives than we might be living.
Right. And I'm guilty of that too. I do need to get more sleep, but you know what I'm saying? It's like a lot of times you get so excited working on projects and say, you know what, once you kind of get involved in that particular project, I'm gonna pinch a little bit of sleep away. You know
absolutely. When I was in my PhD program, I got very little sleep. But there is a real connection between sleep and weight. So if you're not getting your sleep, then your body's not able to go through this natural processes at night that are burning calories. So, keep that in mind, folks. There's a real, need for you to get your sleep, and also just for you to be able to perform at your best every day.
Now, I don't know if this is true, because I don't want to disseminate any fictional information out there, but I thought also like there's a parallel between sleep or lack of sleep and like dementia and
absolutely
and Alzheimer's and things like that. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. I thought I did read that.
You should come on over to the public health side.
You think so?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, first off, I need to do the things that you're saying first. I need to be a positive role model. I come over there, bringing all kind of bad habits.
That's all right. We're all learning.
Work in progress.
That's
Work
right.
in progress.
That's right.
So, okay. All right. So now let's also jump into, now we talked about the ministry side of it. Let's talk about the Mahogany Group. Talk a little bit about your company and how you're impacting your community through your company as well. Just, a little bit of background on your company.
Yeah.
CEO.
So the Mahogany Group is something that kind of spawned out of a lot of people coming to me because they knew the work that I was doing in communities, whether that was volunteer work or paid work. And they would say, can you help me with this project? Or can you help me do this? Or can you, do that? And so, it just made sense for me to start a business because so many people were asking me to do things, especially grant writing work or policy development work. And so that's why I started the business.
Okay. So with the Mahogany Group, now tell a little bit more about, your client base and, the future of the company.
All right. So there have been so many people, like I mentioned, that would come to me and say, can you help with this? Can you help with that? So after starting the company, pretty much all of my clients initially were people that I had worked with before.
Right.
And so now, I have clients that worked with me on one job and we no longer work there, obviously. And because of the work that I've done with them, their experience with me, having worked with me before, they've gotten me contracts to do grant writing work for them, to do provide technical support for their organization, to assist with things like training, development, delivering training. writing grants, as I mentioned, also doing legislative work. So, helping organizations develop legislative strategies and drafting, bills or, policy briefs and that kind of thing. So the work is varied. And fortunately, I have a core team of individuals that I've been working with for a number of years who work with me on, all of these elements at some point. And we just do it. We just do the work that's necessary. A lot of the work that we do centers around diversity, equity, and inclusion. It centers around, developing a culturally competent workforce. The work that I'm doing with Food and Drug Administration, in particular, is really focused on health equity and, making sure that the FDA workforce is delivering communications that's culturally competent. And then, in other communities, whatever people need, right? They just hit me up and we make it happen.
You fill that gap.
Yep, absolutely. Or I find people who can fill the gap.
So it seems like you're just walking in purpose in every aspect of your life, huh?
Absolutely. I mean, it's just been one of those things. I've been really fortunate that the Lord just sends opportunities, and and most of the things that have been coming my way have been things that are truly connected to who I am. So I'm really focused on workforce development, making sure that we're developing our talent pipeline. We need employees, well-trained, competent employees for the future.
Right.
I'm also really focused on education, and thanks to my mom's side of the family in particular, lots of educators really have poured that piece into me. So I'm always working with young people and encouraging people in general just to go back and get educated on, and that doesn't necessarily mean go back and get a college degree, right? It just means, find your niche and then you fill it, get the education, get the credentials that you need in order for you to be able to do that, because there is a need out here in the communities for whatever it is that you do.
Yes.
I have some students, so through my education, I've been able to create programs like a practicum program for public health students to do more faith and health work. So combine the public health training and experience that they're getting with the either faith experience that they have because they grew up in church, or if they don't have that experience, that they can work with Black churches in particular so that they can develop that experience and help us figure out how do we do a better job of promoting health the right way in Black churches, especially given that most Black people go to Black churches.
That's true.
And that's the data supports that.
The data supports
that. And so that means that churches are truly avenues or places of health promotion. We should see them as opportunities for health promotion. So we need to train our students in understanding what the best practices are in doing health promotion work within churches.
Okay.
And then the faith piece is really important in my life, right? And so most of everything that I'm doing now, I totally see that connection back to the faith piece. So I do feel like I'm walking in my purpose, even if some days I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing or why people are reaching out to me and asking me to do X, Y, and Z. But eventually it all is revealed.
You're just being obedient.
Absolutely.
Oh, and then your work with the inroads as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You remember.
I remember that.
You don't forget anything.
Come on now.
Yeah, so the inroads work is really more along the lines of that workforce development piece.
Right.
And so, yes, I have been connected to the inroads program. I say all the time, I wish I was a inroads alum. But fortunately now in my life, I've been able to get connected to them. So I actually do some training for them, for their high school students as well as their college students. I was a speaker at their national conference here recently.
Okay.
And so that gives me an opportunity to actually translate my research. My research has really been centered around adverse childhood experiences and mental health and ER utilization. Okay. So it really helps me kind of, translate that real technical scientific work for an audience that can really take the information and run with it. Like, oh, I didn't realize that, I have some experiences in my past, that caused me to think the way I think, or for me to do the things that I do. And now that I know, how do I adjust so that I can thrive? And so that has been really fueling me. So I do a lot of sessions for inroads related to mental health, related to adulting. What does it mean to become an adult?
I'm still trying to
thrive?
learn.
I know. Tell me about it. I wish I could
progress.
be at home with my mom and let my parents take care of me. But yeah, so the En-ROADS work has really been fascinating. But I work with them on another side as well that really is focused more so on workforce development. So how do we make sure that we are training our college students, in particular, the ones that have an interest in working in healthcare, regardless of whether they want to work on the clinical side of healthcare or the non-clinical side of healthcare? How do we make sure that they receive the training in health equity so they recognize opportunities to improve health equity when they're doing the work that they're doing within those healthcare organizations? So that's been a phenomenal experience and something that is going to definitely outlive me, and that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. And that's a nice segue into these two final questions that I normally ask. The first question is, what do you want your legacy to be? And I've been playing it all throughout my mind. I can kind of hear bits and pieces of it, but I guess for you to kind of tie it all together.
Yeah.
What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, I guess the first thing I always want is for, the Lord to be happy with the work that I do.
Yes, first and foremost, always.
And so, I see all of the things that I'm doing now is really my ministry. So even if I'm working through my company or doing something at church, for me, it's all ministry. Yeah. But then the other thing I feel like I want my legacy to be is, for my kids to be proud of me, right? We all, as parents, you always want your kids and your family to be proud of you. But I also want the work that I'm doing to outlive me, for sure. I want to make sure that, number one, churches are fully meeting the needs of their members and putting in best practices so that they can do programming that makes sense, that's connecting with people, that's changing people's lives, right? The work that I'm doing in federal government, I want that to outlive me, right? I want, people to see the federal government as an entity that really takes into consideration everybody, regardless of what I look like, right? No matter what culture I come from, I want policies and I want documents and I want everything that comes out to be something that I can say I'm connected, like I resonate with, right? And in terms of education, I really see my legacy being training up people who are going to do more than what I do, what I've done, right? I want my students to say, yeah, Dr. Haynes exposed me to this and she told me that there were still these gaps and I'm going after them, right? So that I can transform my community. So for me, that's what legacy is. And, I don't know how long I'll be on the earth, but as long as I'm here, I'm going to just continue to walk in my purpose and let that be that.
That's it. But, and it's funny you say that because I put a post out, something similar to that. I was like, we never know how long our time on earth. I mean, obviously it's a finite amount of time. But you know what? I just say I'm gonna make the most of it, and I'm gonna be as impactful in a positive way as I can. What I'm saying? That's what it's all about. It's never too late to start. It doesn't matter about your age. It doesn't matter about your socioeconomic background. Because you have a platform. We all have a platform, and it's up to us to make the decision that we want to use that platform, to affect positive change. You know what I'm saying? I woke up one day, certain things happened. COVID happened. Death of a friend happened. And I was like, man, am I using my platform as much as I possibly can to impact those, because you never know who's watching you.
That's right.
You have so many, and with you being in education and my parents were both educators for 30 years. My mom taught elementary. My father taught high school for 30 years. My brother's a professor now. You know what I'm saying? So for someone to be in education, you have a direct link at effecting positive change throughout the community because you're right there with those students versus someone indirectly through products or services, but you're right there talking to the youth, looking at them dead in their face. Hey, I'm trying to prepare you for the real world.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? College is one setting, but hey, once you have to start paying bills, once you have a family, it's totally different. Totally different. So
absolutely.
I applaud you for that though. Definitely. That leads me into my final question.
Okay.
Generation Motivation, the podcast. How do you feel as though you're motivating your generation and generations to come? Boy, it's it's piggybacking off of that last legacy question, but
so I guess how I'm motivating my generation. I really do feel like I'm young for a professor, right? And so a lot of my students are my age,
right?
And so I feel like in my classroom, especially my class where I teach about health disparities in the Black community. I really feel like I'm speaking to people my age, my generation, and saying this is what the status is in our community. And so how are you going to take this knowledge that you're getting out of class and really, going out and transforming your communities, especially since the students in my class, because it's an online program, they live in various states. Right. And so how are you taking this information and going out and impacting the people who live in your community, in your state? So I see totally, my students taking the information out. In terms of other folks in my generation, I hope that they look at my example and they see what I'm doing and they, feel inclined to, match. I'm hoping people just match what I'm doing. I don't, match it. Because there's enough work out here for everybody. Like there's no way I can possibly do it all, right? Impact everybody, touch everybody's lives. There's no way. We need more people out here doing this work. So hopefully, they're looking at my example. And then same thing with, the younger generations, just looking at the work that we're doing, seeing that it's good work, seeing that it's making a difference, and then going out and doing something about it in their classrooms, in their homes, in their communities, in their, Sunday school class with, folks that they know at church, and just people in their extracurricular activities, being that light, sharing information, doing good works. Hopefully, they'll, by my example, go out and do the same thing. Exactly. And if they do that, then my work here I've done what I'm supposed to do. I've fulfilled my mission.
There you go. Yeah. So, first and foremost, I want to thank you for joining the podcast. Like I said, things happen for a reason. All your works are not in vain. Continue to be that positive light, not only in your family, but also in your community. And it's just all about being able to touch those, that come in contact with you. And like I said, your platform, you never know how many people you're impacting with you being an educator. I mean, someone that's in your class can be that next person that, you know what I'm saying, that changes the world. So, how can people find out more information about your good works and your company?
And so if you want to get in contact with me, feel free to go to www.theMahoganyGroup.com. You can also hit me up on Twitter at Dr. Eboni, Eboni, Haynes, Haynes.
Okay, gotcha. And I told you this off camera, but I am a Pistons fan. So when you talk about Virginia Union, I mean, I'm gonna have to salute Big Ben as well.
That's right.
I'm gonna have to salute Big Ben.
Yeah, come to homecoming. It's usually always at homecoming. So yeah,
that's what's up. But I definitely appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Continue doing any and everything that you can to affect positive change. To the listeners, thank you once again for tuning into another episode. It's because of people like Dr. Haynes, once again, making an impact in their community that it gives me the energy and motivation to continue using my platform. You know what I'm saying? You never know whose path you make, cross, and it's just beautiful to be able to hear these stories and, of people walking in purpose. And that's what it's all about. And we're here for a reason. Find out your reason for being here on earth and make the most of it. And until next time,